Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us to this Friday evening. And we will be looking at chapter 14. And I wanted to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can share some things on this wonderful chapter. I'd like to welcome Shruti, and she will be reciting the Sanskrit. And I'd like devotees to volunteer to read the English translation. This chapter is an extraordinary chapter. I mean, my spiritual master used to tell me, if you just tell us, if you just understand this chapter, then you will be able to transcend all of the difficulties in this world and be eligible to enter into the spiritual world. Very important chapter, very practical chapter. Krishna gives information to Arjuna about the place we are living in. So a brief summary of this chapter. Previously, the Lord has referred briefly to the three modes of material nature. But in chapter 14, Krishna gives details of these modes. And what are they? Goodness, passion, ignorance. You may know them as Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. These permeate in everything we do. What we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we touch, what we smell. Everything is governed by these modes. And we are governed by the modes ourselves. Our lifestyles, attitudes, behaviors, they fall under these three modes. Through closer analysis, we can perceive how people are functioning, how we are functioning in this world, with a mistaken belief of free will. We think we got free will, but actually we're working under these three modes because they are impelling us to act according to their influences. So it's important to know what are these three modes, right? Therefore, unless one is able to transcend these three modes, they act to perpetually trap one in this material world. These are described to be very strong ropes that bind us to this world. The three ropes of Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamagun. And even if we understand, and even if we are situated in goodness, that last little comment here, even goodness is not good enough. So that's something that we'll go into a bit later on. There are a number of themes, 4 themes, as they generally are in the Gita, in this chapter. What are the modes? Krishna explains, what are these modes? He explains how they work as well, right? So this is really phenomenal chapter. And he explains the attributes of one who is in each of these three modes. And finally, he also describes how to cross beyond these three modes. So it's a really good chapter. And if devotees don't mind, I was going to split this chapter into 2. We'll do half of it today, and the remaining half we will do it not next week, because next week again is Ekadashi. So we will focus on Ekadashi again, but the week after. And the reason we want to do this is because partly it's very important, but also we've done a survey, a questionnaire of, I can't remember how many questions there are in there, but it goes through all of our different aspects of our lives and how we behave, so that we can work out roughly in which mode we are, generally speaking, whether we're in Sattvagun, Rajagun, or Tamagun. So, mixture. Predominantly, right? Predominantly. So, having said all this, let's have a look at the first theme. So it's the first 9 verses. Oh, hang on a sec. Have I done that? Probably I haven't got it ready. Yeah. That's it. Just 1 second. Get my head together. So anybody like to volunteer to read the English translation? Ardika?
Yeah, sure, I can do that, no problem.
Okay. If I ask you to do the Sanskrit, that's going to be interesting. Now,
I think I'd have to turn you down on that one. Sorry. For now, maybe in the future, I might be able to do it.
Absolutely, that's the attitude. I like it. Now we have Shruti, very kindly recites. Hare Krishna, Shruti. Are you there, Shruti?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Oh, great. Very good. Thank you so much. So, Shruti, you're welcome to start, huh?
Okay, Prabhuji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Chaturdashodhyayah. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Param Bhuyah Pravakshyami. Jnananam Jnanam Uttamam. यज्ञात्वा मुनयः सर्वे परां सिद्धिमितो गताः.
Should I read it now?
Yes, please.
Okay. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection.
इदं ज्ञानम् उपाश्रित्य मम साधर्म्यम् आगताः सर्गेऽपि नोपजायन्ते प्रलये न व्यथन्ति च.
By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution.
मम योनिर्महद् ब्रह्म तस्मिन् गर्भं दधाम्यहम् सम्भवः सर्वभूतानां ततो भवति भारत.
The total material substance called Brahman, is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Bharata.
सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय मूर्तयः सम्भवन्ति याः तासां ब्रह्म महद्योनिर् aham बीजप्रदः पिता.
It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed giving birth, their father.
Sattvam rajastama iti guna prakriti sambhavaah nibadhnanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam.
Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes.
Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakamanayam sukhatangena badhnati jnanasangena chanagha.
O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by sense of happiness and knowledge.
So here Krishna starts describing each of the modes, beginning with the mode of goodness.
रजोरागात्मकं विद्धि तृष्णासङ्गसमुद्भवम् तन्निबध्नाति कौन्तेय कर्मसङ्गेन देहिनम्.
The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti, and because of this, the embodied living entity is bound of material fruitive actions.
तमस्त्वज्ञानजं विद्धि मोहनं सर्वदेहिनां प्रमादालस्य निद्राभिस्तन्निबध्नाति भारत.
O son of Bharata, know that the mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul.
सत्त्वं सुखे सञ्जयति रजः कर्मणि भारत ज्ञानम् आवृत्य तु तमः प्रमादे सञ्जयत्युत.
O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruitive action, and ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness.
Great, thank you so much. That's great. So let's do a quick summary of the first theme. Oops, sorry, doing that. Okay. That's what it was. So, summary of these first 9 verses. Mode is translation of the Sanskrit word guna, and that literally means thread or rope. That's what mode guna means, thread or rope. The 3 modes influence a person's character, behavior, and approach to life. We'll see how later Krishna describes these gunas. They have they're 3, but then they compete with each other, and they almost thread a web around our lives, like a rope or a thread. It literally binds us to this world. Spider's web, yeah, good idea, good point. So the examples given, Krishna gives examples. He explains the symptoms of one is in the mode of goodness, sattva. If it predominates, then one will aspire for and hopefully generally achieve long-term happiness. Even if somebody experiences some temporary inconvenience, they're working hard to become situated in a very good place. So somebody who likes to perhaps meditate or study to gain knowledge, to understand life, that falls into this category. Person who overtaken by passion, rajas, frantically seeks immediate short-term gains and doesn't expect much more out of life. So this perhaps can be the vast majority of people will be into this category, working for a living. It's not a bad thing necessarily, but we need to understand that if we're in this mode, then we have endless desires, endless passions. We want to just keep going until we drop. And our vision is a little bit narrow-minded. Yeah, we just tend to seek out short-term goals. and not really look at the longer term view. And then Krishna describes the third person. He's dominated by ignorance, tamogun, tamas. And this person is rarely happy. He's in the mode of ignorance. And whatever he does, it just ends up in such a big mess because he's either, or she is either addicted to something, or always sleeping, or doing crazy things. And in the beginning, it's not nice. In the end, it's not nice. In the middle, it's not nice. Whereas you can distinguish that for the others. In the goodness, in the beginning, it's hard. But in the end, there's success because you worked hard for it. In passion, it's good in the beginning. Good in the beginning, enjoying. But then you struggle at the end. Whereas in ignorance, it's crazy in the beginning, it's crazy in the middle, and it's crazy at the end. So we definitely don't want to be in this mode of ignorance, right? In this way, the material world is populated by living entities in different conditions of life. So we see this in our daily life, actually. As a general tendency, if we wake up in the morning, especially if we wake up early, we will be in this mode of goodness. Our mind will be a little bit fresh. We may even be in a meditative mood. So Satogun is prominent. And then as the day goes on, after breakfast, we realize, hey, you got to do some work. And the passion, mode of passion takes over. So we're working hard, we're trying to get things done. Trying to fulfill all our desires. I've got a wish list or a to-do list to get through today. And then evening time comes, eat a little bit, and we feel tired, sleepy, and ignorance sets in. So this is a typical day. We can see these modes working within each aspect of the day. So that's an example of how we can recognize these modes. So what's the lesson to learn from these 9 verses is to understand what are these 3 modes of material nature. And we've got a little bit of an idea here. Krishna explains that the living entity, when he's pure, he's spirit soul, he's not contaminated by these 3 modes of material nature. But his general tendency, the soul, is transcendentally Satchit Anand. Sat means full of truth. Chit means knowledge, Anand, happy. He's full of eternity, knowledge, and happiness. That's his natural condition. That's our natural condition, right? So what happened to us? How did the living entity become conditioned or controlled, right? So we came in contact. This is in the 5th chapter. We see that, the 5th verse, Krishna explains of this chapter, that the living entity, when he comes in contact with the 3 modes of material nature, when we come into this world, that's when we start to get conditioned, controlled, right? So we get controlled by the 3 modes, which is goodness, ignorance, and passion. So that's essentially how we come into this world and get trapped into these 3 modes of material nature. And you can see this picture, it's quite an interesting picture. It's like a puppet show. And these puppeteers are controlling the puppets. And like it or not, we are here, we are the puppets. And these modes actually are controlling us. So if we're not careful, we can get carried away within these modes, not understanding that actually it's not us, the pure living entity, that's interacting with the world. It's actually these 3 modes which are governing our behavior and actions. So let's have a look at the next few verses, 4 verses. And anybody like to do the English translations, please? Any volunteers? Otherwise, we can.
Nabiji, I'll do it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Manishi.
No problem.
Okay, Shruti.
रजस्तमश्चाभिभूय सत्त्वं भवति भारत रजः सत्त्वं तमश्चैव तमः सत्त्वं रजस्तथा.
Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. O son of Bharat, sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times, ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy.
सर्वद्वारेषु देहेऽस्मिन् प्रकाश उपजायते ज्ञानं यदा तदा विद्याद् वृद्धं सत्त्वमित्युत.
The manifestation of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge.
लोभः प्रवृत्तिरारम्भः कर्मणाम् अशमः स्पृहा रजस्येतानि जायन्ते विवृद्धे भरतर्षभ.
O chief of Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop.
अप्रकाशो प्रवृत्तिश्च प्रमादो मोह एव च तमस्येतानि जायन्ते विवृद्धे कुरु नन्दन.
When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested.
Okay, thank you so much. That was really good. Now let's have a quick look at the summary of this. Good. Okay. The modes compete with one another, as Krishna is saying, for supremacy within an individual. In a single day, a cycle of a single day, different modes may achieve prominence at different times, as we already sort of indicated. Goodness clarifies. Goodness is one where one is seeking understanding and pacifies the individual, since it motivates joy, wisdom, altruism, kindness. Now, passion is said to confuse and provoke the individual, invoking qualities of greed, anger, frustration. When we want things, we want to get things done. Somebody's in our way, and we try to push them out of the way. Whereas ignorance leads to obscurity, impedes one's life, results in oversleep, indifference, laziness, inertia. So we see these three modes competing with each other, even within oneself. So the lesson to learn is, how do these modes work? They're not constant in their influence upon everyone. Everyone is differently influenced according to karma, according to our work, according to our company that we keep, right? If we keeping company with drunkards, perhaps we may also go down that route ourselves, our choice of food and so on. So a particular mode becomes prominent within us depending on our circumstances. So let's have a look at the example here. If goodness or sattvagun, rajagun, then tamagun. Sattvagun first. It illuminates. What are the qualities? It illuminates the gates of the body with knowledge, which means basically what we perceive by the senses is based on knowledge in the right position. We are clean inside, clean outside. It frees us from sinful reactions. We want to sin when we are situated in goodness. But if we're taken over by passion, then there's intense endeavor, unlimited desires and longings. We have great attachments, and we work hard to achieve, to get our desires fulfilled. And then, of course, darkness, ignorance, it leads to illusion, madness, inertia. We're not working according to principles, regulative principles. We work whimsically and perhaps achieve absolutely zero. And always in illusion, even though he has the capacity to work, there's no endeavor. So we have to be careful to avoid ignorance. Passion is generally where we are. So what we want to try to do is elevate our consciousness to the next level. Now, what I was thinking, let's do the next few verses, 5 verses, and then I give you a hint about the questionnaire, which we will then look at in more detail in 2 weeks' time. Yeah, so go for it. Yeah. So who'd like to volunteer to read the English?
I'll do that, Prabhuji, yes.
Okay, go for it. Okay, Shruti.
Yada sattve pravriddhe tu pralayam yati dehabhrit tadottamvidam lokan amalan pratipadyate.
When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages.
Rajas pralayam gatva karma sangishu jayate tatha praleenastamasi mudhayotishu jayate.
When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities. And when one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom.
Karmana sukritasyahuhu satvikam nirmalam phalam rajasastu phalam dukkham ajnanam tamasah phalam.
The result of pious action is pure and is said to be in the mode of goodness. But action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness.
Sattvat sanjayate jnanam rajaso lobha evacha pramadamohau tamaso bhavato jnanam evacha.
From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance develops foolishness, madness, and illusion.
Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhye tishthanti rajasah jaghanya gunavrittistha adho gachanti tamasah.
Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. So let's have a look at this. concept of reincarnation comes in, yeah? Reincarnation is a process by which a soul receives a new mature body on the following basis of activities performed in the present body. Our activities are the result of the decisions we make. Our decisions are ultimately based on the modes which we are being influenced by. Thus, Krishna predicts the future destination of an individual based on predominant mode in their life. Right? So in summary, he says, if those are in the God of goodness, if they die in that mode, predominantly they're in that mode and they die, they'll go upwards to the higher planets. He doesn't say they go to the spiritual world. Right? They won't go to the spiritual world. So even one who is in the mode of goodness, sinless, doesn't mean he's going to enter the spiritual world. He'd go to the higher planets, the heavenly planets. Those in the mode of passion, they'll continue to live on earth. Those who in the mode of ignorance, they would go down to the hellish planets. Why to the hellish planets? Because they will have performed crazy acts. So the lesson to learn from this, which mode are we in? We need to work out, where are we? Which mode? Where are we going? So this is where the survey kicks in. We can do the survey and work out where we stand. The idea is to improve from whichever mode we are in to the next mode. And it's a personal survey. It's not something that we can have to do publicly. So if we're, for example, if we're in the mode of ignorance, we can move up to the mode of passion. If we're in the mode of passion, let's try to get to the mode of goodness. So before having I was going to give you a taster of the survey or questionnaire. But before going there, I wanted to ask, are there any questions of what we've gone through so far? The three modes, what they are, and what they do, and why we're entangled in them. Any questions that come from that? Yes, Advika.
Yes, I have a question. So, we've got goodness, passion, and ignorance. So is there a definition of what is goodness and what is passion and what is ignorance?
Yes, there is a definition. Krishna gives it, right? Let's just have a quick. He sort of gives it a little bit throughout this chapter. He gives it. For example, here, the manifestation of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. Let's have a look at another one. Here it is. Mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating. It frees one from sinful reactions. In that mode, one becomes conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. So mode of goodness is basically one who is not committing sin, and he is happy in himself, self-situated, fixed, is not necessarily driven by the different competitions within this material world. A bit like maybe that's not good. A priest would be an example. A professor, a teacher perhaps might be an example. And then, does that make sense for goodness?
I don't. I mean, it makes sense. But I don't know. I just think, like, it's you see, it's so for somebody who doesn't know this at all, like to realize goodness is knowing, like things like, okay, you shouldn't lie,
that's it.
You shouldn't cheat, you shouldn't eat meat, you shouldn't. So
right.
Qualities.
The qualities.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll come to that. You're absolutely right. So in fact, we will come to that when we do the questionnaire. We look at all the different aspects of our lives, like the charity giving, like accumulating knowledge, our food diet, And we'll see how it's broken into the different categories.
Because even later in the chapter, it tells you what foods are in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, and things like that. So depending on those foods as well, that those are the qualities that you will have as well. What sort of charity one does, the modes and things like that as well. Later in the chapter, explains it a bit more.
Brilliant. Okay, yeah, that was my question. Where does it? So it says specify somewhere, because if we're completely new to this, then it's like it's all relative. What I think is goodness might not
exactly
be goodness for someone else.
Yes,
So
that's
what
correct.
I mean.
Yeah, that's correct. Krishna sort of does give an idea of how one behaves when one is in these different qualities, modes. Yeah, that's correct. So we'll probably we'll cover that in some detail. I'll give you a little hint in a few minutes. But he gives the general principles in this chapter that one who is in goodness, he's in a good place. Even if one is truthful, it doesn't necessarily put you in goodness necessarily, right? One can be truthful in business, but one may still be very passionate in the general outlook of life. So what Krishna is doing is giving an overview of someone who is in the mode of goodness. He's actually sinless, and he's accumulating knowledge. He's kind. He's favorably inclined to others. He doesn't have great longings and desires. He's self-satisfied. And passion is somebody who is unlimited desires, totally opposite. So many things to do, so many achievements. He's got a huge bucket list. And they never get fulfilled. He's just frustrated all the time, because no matter how hard he tries, he just can't satisfy all the desires that he's got. And then the person in the mode of ignorance is somebody who's just lazy, can't be bothered. It's not going to. Sometimes the difference between goodness and ignorance is quite a fine line. Somebody who can't be, and a person in goodness can't be bothered sometimes either, right? But with knowledge, whereas one in ignorance can't be bothered because he's just damn lazy.
Thank you.
No, thank you for asking. Anything else from your side?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else, any questions? Otherwise, we'll have a quick look at the questionnaire. Don't get scared, okay, with these questions. Okay, let's have a look. So the workings of the three modes. Which mode are we in? So we won't do this time. Maybe next 2 weeks' time, we get everybody to have a pen and paper ready. And score yourselves. And this is a private score. It's not something that you need to advertise. And let's have a look at a few. Let's look at the first page. So what are the characteristics and manifestation, the different types, right? If somebody's in ignorance, they're in delusion, illusion, they're in darkness, a little bit mad, inertia. Most of the time, if not all the time. One who's in the mode of passion, intense desires, intense endeavors, unlimited desires and longings, great attachments, and they always working, right? Always working. Selfishly working, not working for others. In goodness, it illuminates the gates of the body with knowledge, frees one from sinful actions. So this is a general characteristic, so it's manifestation. So these are the three. So 3, 2, 1. If you feel that you're in, I don't think anybody's in this category. Right? If somebody thinks that they are here, then mark yourself with a 3. If you think you're here, you like to running around here, there, everywhere. Of course, nowadays in COVID, it's hard to do that. But from one Zoom meeting to another Zoom meeting, that's another example. And if one is thinking one is in goodness, that, not really that way inclined, not really doing anything crazy. then one can mark for self with a 1. Now, these 3 modes bind us to this world. Even goodness binds us to this world. Now, you might ask, why? How can goodness bind us to this world? It's sinless. It might be sinless, and sinless is very good. It's a fantastic platform to operate from. But if one is left at that, keeps staying at that place, then one will achieve the higher consciousness, higher worlds in this material world, but one will not go beyond this material world. There is a place beyond this material world, which is where we want to be. So that's going to take more than just being sinless to get to that place. So to get to that place, we need this: complete, unmotivated, unfailing devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's pure goodness. That's pure goodness. And that's a 0.
Yeah, so basically, if you're in the mode of goodness, whatever you're doing, you're accumulating good karma, which is again binding us to this world, because karma binds us to this world, whether it's good or bad. Whereas pure goodness means everything that you're doing is for the pleasure of the Lord, not for yourself or your family or your country. That doesn't bind you to the Lord. You might be doing the same thing, but you're doing it for the Lord, not for yourself.
Any questions on that one? Anybody, everybody marked yourselves where at least mentally, where you think you might be? What do you think, Hardika? I'm going to pick on you.
That's all right. I'm not sensitive. It's okay. You can pick on me.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I'm still. Oh, I'm going to put my camera on so you can see.
Okay.
I'm still. You may have covered this, in other chapters, and it probably
No, we
covered
haven't.
in other chapters.
No, we haven't.
No, so
Go for it.
Because I'm just thinking, I think it's still
not clear.
It's vague.
Yes,
I think
vague.
it's so things like darkness. Okay, so what is darkness? What's so like if there was examples, if there was a story relating to say something happened to someone, so and I'm sure there probably is, in the Gita. Then it's, I mean, maybe I'm a bit slow, I don't know.
No, you're
but
not.
I'm just thinking,
you're sharp. You're good.
To actually, so
no, this is really good, actually. It's really, and keep asking, keep questioning what we're doing, because this is exactly how we can also improve what we're doing. Lovely.
So you see, if we were, so like, I'm just thinking, if I was to say to one of my friends or someone, oh, look, I'm studying this, and we were talking about, darkness and madness, and they'll be like, well, what is darkness? What does it mean? What does, so like, if there was, like, say, for instance, darkness, if somebody stole, or if somebody, like a real example of, if somebody got angry for no reason, if somebody got angry, for selfish reasons, or if somebody got angry for for justice, then that's goodness. The anger can be two things. Anger can be, if you're fighting for the right reason, then okay to get angry. I know this because I listened to some of it today. Is Krishna says, in Ramayan, the ego, when Sita,
Jatayu.
Is it Guru? What's
Garud.
Guru? Yeah, he gets angry because Sita is, and his neck gets chopped off and he gets killed.
Oh, that's Jatayu.
By Ravan. Yeah.
Yeah, Jatayu.
So that anger, so Krishna says that anger is justified because he was trying to save Sita. You
Yes.
know, whereas
Yeah.
when Duryodhan gets angry, you know,
Mm.
he's not doing justice, you know, to anyone. He is very selfish. It's for himself.
Mm.
You know, so that comes under ignorance.
Yeah.
Whereas as the other, does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Actually, we can split, very nice point. We can split that type of anger into these categories, into these 4 categories. So anger which leads to destruction, complete devastation, is ignorance.
Yeah.
We don't know why we're angry. We're just fighting for the sake of fighting,
Yeah.
because we want to fight. It's a little bit like stealing. You're thinking this is rightfully mine, I'm stealing it. It's anger. It's like in the mode of ignorance.
It's never
In
right
the,
to steal, yeah.
in the mode of, that's right. In the mode of passion, one is angry because something has happened to us. Something happened to us personally, and we're taking it out. Right? We've got some justification. Somebody hit me and I hit them back.
Revenge.
Yeah.
Revenge, right?
Yeah.
That's mode of passion, anger. Mode of goodness, anger, is somebody hits somebody and I've got angry because you hit somebody. Why did you do that? That's not good. That's mode of goodness, anger, because you're trying to protect somebody else. But the pure goodness is where you mentioned the example of Jatayu.
Jatayu, that's it. Yeah.
That he's angry because of a devotee of the Lord being hurt.
Yeah.
And that anger is in the mode of pure goodness. So that anger took him to the spiritual world.
Yeah.
The mode of goodness anger, where you're angry on behalf of somebody else, that is a very good activity, because you're protecting somebody else. You're not selfishly thinking about yourself, you're thinking about somebody else. That anger is still good, because you're helping somebody else, you know. So that will take you a higher level of consciousness, because you're doing it for somebody else. And it's out of righteousness. It's not out of, you know, you're a fight. You like to pick a fight, and you just sort of pick a fight with anybody. And the anger in the mode of passion, where you've been hit and you hit back, that's passion. That's just that's you're within the mode of you're going to just incur more karmic reaction, because you're reacting. You're eye tooth for tooth, you know, eye for eye. And ignorance, you just go crazy because you like violence. You got no justification, but you're just violent. So that's darkness. So darkness is where you consider irreligious activity to be religious activity. Irreligious to be religious.
Yeah, you could take the example of the terrorist, you know, who thinks I'm doing it in the name of the Lord.
Yeah.
You know, they're ignorant of exactly what the Lord wants. Really, they're misinterpreting things. So they're in darkness, you know, because they have not got that knowledge. I think darkness here means not knowledge.
Okay. Yeah.
Not you know, the concept of darkness, but here it's referring to not having the knowledge.
Or using knowledge to actually making knowledge being opposite of what it is, you know. So
thank you.
No, it's okay. So do you think you, like, for example, let's do another one as well, and then we'll seek others' opinion as well.
Yeah.
Then we'll because this. Oh, Manish, yes, you like to share anything?
Yes, Nabhiji. Actually, talking about all these 4 modes, and finally about submission to the God, to the Lord himself. When I relate this to Sudama and Krishna's story, I get a bit confused there, because the confusion comes from that throughout his life, Sudama is not interested in any riches or anything. He is submitting himself to the God,
Yes.
and he's kind of pure goodness. But where
Yes.
I get confused is at the end of the story,
Yeah.
he's rewarded with materialistic goods.
Yeah.
And that is what, that to some extent to me sends a wrong message.
Wrong message.
That ultimately you are working towards materialistic rewards.
Yeah, nice. Very well put, actually. Really good point. In fact, his mood was always, I'm going to see Krishna because he's my friend. His wife's mood was, go and see him because he's rich. And ask him for some money. We haven't even got anything to eat. So when he went to see Krishna and he had this fantastic time with the Lord and his best friend, he never remembered to ask Krishna. And he was walking back, he was thinking, oh, wasn't I supposed to ask him for something? Oh, yes, I was going to ask him for some money. Oh, never mind. And he was just ecstatic. He was just happy because he'd met his friend. Of course, when he reached back, Krishna knew what he wanted, or Krishna knew what he needed, if you like. And Krishna made him accessible to all the wealth he wanted or needed. But Sudama, he never got entangled in that wealth. This is the thing with Sudama. Even though Krishna awarded him the wealth because his wife was wanting it, he was never entangled by it. So that's okay, Hardika. Thank you very much for coming on. Huh? It's really good interaction.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
No,
sorry
that's
about
okay.
that.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming on. It was really good.
Okay. Yeah.
Looking forward to more debates with you. Very, very nice. Very,
Me
very
too.
nice.
Me too. Okay. Have a good weekend. I'll speak to you soon.
Take care. Take care.
Okay. Bye. Bye. Just
so, Manish, the point is, even the devotee comes into wealth. If he's a devotee of the Lord, it has no impact on him whatsoever.
Makes sense. Absolutely makes sense, Nabiji. So, but I think then the problem lies in the way the story is told and where the story ends. Probably the story needs to be extended.
Yes, you're right.
Beyond, beyond the point where they say that Sudama and his family receives all these riches.
Yes,
but that should not be the end of the story in that sense.
You're absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot. That's missed out. And that's critical, because otherwise, as you said, it's very misleading. Oh, Krishna gave him the rewards, he can enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Very well put. A very good point. Good point. And how do you feel? Is this something that this exercise, which hopefully we'll take on in a couple of weeks' time, go through each one of these and see where we stand? Is this something that you might find useful, do you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's very illuminating because there's a lot of confusion. It's very difficult to point that if I'm ignorant, passionate, or filled with goodness, it's if you review even throughout the day and your day's activities, it's still very difficult to point out, did I do something good, or was I passionate about it, or I just did it because I had to do it, without a thought.
Yeah, true. This may not completely answer the question, because ultimately it's your inner mood that's very critical in all of this. Because you're working, but you may not actually be attached to the results of the work. You might be just doing it, as you said, as a sense of duty. I've given this job and I'm just doing it, not being attached to anything. So that would be a very nice place to be. But on the outside, you're looking like you're working like a dog, but actually inside you are fulfilled. You are not in, you're not got these longings and unwanted desires, etc. But you're just working because it's your duty and you're doing it.
Mm.
So a lot depends on the mood of one's what mood one is doing the action.
Yeah, but that takes us back to the point of desire.
Yes, it does indeed. It does indeed. Desire is quite a critical part of everything. Very good point. So we will look at like the characteristics is one, charity. I mean, let's pick charity and see if this one resonates, and then we can make finish this session. Charity, three modes. Charity given at an improper time, improper place, to an unworthy person. For example, you see somebody on the street and they're outside the the off license, and they ask for £1, you give them £1. You know what they're going to do with £1? They're going to go into the off license and get some more to drink. Right? That's considered to be more ignorant, charity in the mode of ignorance, because you actually are encouraging that person to do even more sinful activity. Mode of passion is you're going to give something, but you want something back in return. Okay, I'm going to give you £1, and you advertise everybody that I have been very generous to you. So it's performed to get something in return.
Business transaction.
It's like a business transaction, yeah, with the desire for fruitive results, or given in a grudging mood. Just take it, go away. Charity given in a mode of goodness is done as a duty at the right time, at the right place, to a worthy person. And there's no expectation. You're just giving it without anything back in return. I don't want anything in return, just take it away. And the charity, which is the best, pure goodness, is only done to satisfy the Supreme Lord or his devotees. You're just doing the charity to please the Lord. Simple as that. So again, we can work out where do we sit when we're making a donation. Where's our consciousness, our mood? Let's pick on somebody. Bauna Ben, are you there?
So you were asking about charity?
Yeah, what do you think? Is this something that, as a questionnaire, you would be able to put yourself in any of those categories?
I would, if I was giving charity, first of all, I would like to know where it's going. And I would prefer to see who I'm giving it to.
Yes, good.
Make sure that it goes to the right place.
Yeah, right place.
And it's going to be used in the right way, not going somewhere that you don't know how it's going to be spent. Good.
So I think that sounds like you would place yourself here in goodness. Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's good. So Manish, yes?
Yeah, sorry. Naviji, just one point on this one, on charity. You know, that, this is a good point, that we would like to know where the money is going and who's getting. But isn't it possible, or to think about it, is that I'm donating money with, or I'm doing charity with good intentions, and let's say I'm donating it in a temple or a gurudwara or somewhere, and I do it with good intention, but I don't really worry where it gets spent, because I leave that to the Lord to decide.
Good. Absolutely spot on. When you're giving it to a temple, gurudwara, church, place of worship, you know where it's going to go, right? You know where it's going to go. It's going to go for the worship of the Lord, or it's going to go for the expenses of the devotees. That's fine, absolutely fine, because it's in the right, because you're already giving it in the right place, isn't it? You're already giving it at the right place. So you're not going to worry too much if how they're going to use it, because you're giving it to the temple, the place of worship, and whatever they will do it. You have that faith and trust that they will do it properly. That you don't have to question. I agree. I think what Bhagavad perhaps more meant was, I want to know who, if somebody asks me, I want to know what you're going to use it for. Not somebody in the temple, but maybe somebody who, I don't know, feeding people or something.
Or you have, you see the adverts on the television, like sponsor a child or something, things like that. So you want to know really, who that child is, and, maybe have a link with them, meet them, or talk to them like that. You don't just give it and assume it's going to that child or something. I think that's what Pavna been made.
Yes, Mataji, that's correct. And
Yeah.
for example, at the moment, everybody's doing charity for sending money for, like in India, with COVID and all that. I mean, if I know that it's going to go to the place that, because they have a middleman, I don't know, and we send the money, but we don't know if the persons are going to get the money.
Correct.
Help over there. So you need to see our money, but we give charity, that it goes to the right place and right person.
Yeah, that's responsible giving.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Manish?
Yes, Naviji, absolutely.
Yeah.
If it was just Gurudwara temple, we don't question that. When we give money to, like places you said, like Gurudwara or places like that where they feed people, and that we don't question that. We just do charity money, like, but they do all this charity that collecting money for, they're going to do water in Africa, here, there, all this charity, they're asking for money, and then we don't know. So that's what my view was.
Makes sense. That's good. Anybody else? Anything to share? Surinder, what do you think?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, so very interesting. Chandram Padita Sharanam Gauradam Tam Bhajiham. Yes, some example we can share. Just like in Chaitanya Bhagavad, there was one devotee, and he was thinking that if I meet Gauranga Mahaprabhu, I'll bow down to him and clasp his lotus feet and beg him the boon that my son, who is a compulsive gambler, will be freed from this disease of being a compulsive gambler. This lila is mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavad. So one example of mode of ignorance can be said like this compulsive gambling is a psychiatric illness, and therefore once it comes to the point of a psychiatric illness, then it is tamasic energy, tamogun. Yeah, and similarly, there are other aspects. There is one case scenario that one time there was a person, and he was always drinking alcohol. So he was, most of the time, he was in sense of alcoholic intoxication. So one time he's dealing with his mother, he was hungry, and he's asking some food with his mom. And then the mom is cooking, and it's with a little bit of delay. And this man, who is under influence of alcoholic intoxication, became so angry, and he took a log and hit his mom, and the mom died. And this man attempted suicide, and then he was admitted in my ward. This was back home in Mauritius.
Wow.
What a scenario. So
Mm.
our man killed his own mother because of uncontrollable anger, because of the influence of alcohol. So this is all an example of tamogun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So the most important thing is we need to avoid these tamogun things.
Indeed.
And yeah, and also in psychiatry, there is this, as Krishna explained, the greatest enemy is lust.
Yeah.
Enemy is lust. So in terms of lust, sexual desires also, it can be classified in tamogun level, psychiatric illness level,
Yeah.
such as conditions such as when people become like sex maniac,
Yeah. Yeah.
conditions such as transvestism, voyeurism, masochism, sadism, bestialism, and all these things come to the level of psychiatric illness, and therefore they are classified as tamogun.
Yeah.
For those who have tamogun background, it's difficult to properly practice Krishna consciousness. That is why, as minimum, we should try to attempt to be maintained in the minimum mode of goodness, and try to practice the Krishna consciousness. And example in Chaitanya Bhagavad, the devotee said, he's a father, and he said that when I'll meet Gauranga Mahaprabhu, I'll fall down at his lotus feet and beg his mercy so that my son will be freed from this compulsive gambling disease, malaria. So in the same mood, we should pray to Gauranga Mahaprabhu to be freed from this influence of mode of ignorance and mode of passion, and try to transcend these three modes of material nature. Is by begging Gauranga Mahaprabhu, praying, and in this way, we hope that one day we can practice Sudha Bhakti, and this is our aspiration. Thank you, Prabhu. Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Thank you so much. Very good. Nice. Good share. Thank you. So next time, we will go through all of these different, what's happening here? There's so many different categories, 15 different categories, and then we can work out where we stand. It's not going to be completely accurate, but it gives us a little idea. I hope devotees don't mind, and you'll find it useful. Shruti, anything you'd like to add?
This is actually this is a chapter which, as you mentioned, that the beginning of our session today, it's full of so much practical knowledge, things that we do in our daily lives. It really makes us think, you know. It makes us introspect and check whether what consequences each of our actions are going to have, and how we can use this knowledge to better ourselves. My cousin quotes this chapter very frequently. So yeah, I am reminded of him when I was reminded of him when we did this session today. I must tell him.
Very good.
He will be very happy. I'll share this content with him as well.
Thank you so much. Very good. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna,
So
thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Bhanaben. Thank you, everybody. I hope that was useful, and
Thank
we shall see everybody soon. Shruti, we're looking forward to seeing you on Sunday, as always.
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm looking forward to studying as well.
So thank you so much. Thank you, Manish, and thank
Thank you
you.
for the devotees. Hare Krishna.